What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. We are back with another live stream. We are here. It's I can't believe it's already week 11, and we're nearing the fantasy playoffs. You guys are here. You guys have been with us all season long. We appreciate, obviously, you guys being here every single week. The channel has grown so much. Thank you guys so much. And if you guys could do me a favor, go down, click that like button. Seriously, just say thank you to our basically our company for allowing us to do this every single week and talk to you guys and do the live stream. I enjoy doing it. It helps me talk through the process and hopefully helps you guys learn something as well. We are now up over 20,000 subscribers. If you are not subscribed yet, make sure you go down and do that. And once you do click on that down below, subscribe, it's going to give you that little notifications tab. You can click on that so that you get notifications when we go live on whether it be the Tuesday live stream, the Thursday, Sunday, whatever. If you guys want notifications, you guys can set that up. So I wanted to let you guys know that. And we're going to get started into the injuries. It's a very light injury day, so we're going to be able to take a lot of sit-start questions for you guys. So before I do that, I do want to remind you guys we are doing a giveaway. Check out this on the screen. It's awesome. Win a signed Dalvin Cook helmet. All you have to do is go to fantasypros.com/contest. I will bring this back up at the end of the show so you guys can, remember to do this, because obviously right now you don't want to go do that. You want to be here watching the live stream with me. So it's an awesome helmet. I actually have an Adrian Peterson one. That's the exact one, signed with the same type of marker and everything. So hopefully you guys will enter to win that. I'd like to see one of you guys win it. So with that being said, let's just move right into the injury talk. And the way we do these shows, I will talk through the injuries. I will give you guys an idea as to the guys that you should be taking out of your lineups, the guys you should expect to be out, as well as what the fantasy implications are for those who are going to take their place. So then once I'm done with that, I will get into the sit-start questions. I will take as many of your questions as possible. So right now I'm going to make sure that I say live on Twitter. All right, so let's start with Joe Flacco. He's the first one that pops up on my list. Joe Flacco is not going to play this week, so they are going to give Lamar Jackson the start. I mean, there's a lot of people who have asked me questions this morning based on Lamar Jackson, who I would start him over, who I wouldn't. Is he a DFS play? Lamar Jackson is someone that I am interested in for sure in DFS. He's only 4,700 on DraftKings. But in terms of season-long leagues, I don't know if you need to trust him just yet. There's a lot of good streaming options this week. I still prefer Dak Prescott to him, so Dak was available in a lot of leagues. I currently have him slotted in that QB 16 to 18 territory because they haven't even given us a clear indication as to how they're going to use him. If Robert Griffin III is going to be taking snaps as well, because Robert Griffin III has remained on the roster the entire season. So I don't know why they would have kept him around if they weren't going to plan on, at least incorporating him. He could have been kept around for reasons that we don't know. Maybe he was kept around just to mentor, Lamar Jackson. Whatever the case is, Lamar Jackson is rumored to be starting. Understand that he does come with some risk because if he does, if he throws an interception or two, they may decide to go with Robert Griffin III. I don't think that the leash would be very long for Lamar Jackson, especially when John Harbaugh is coaching for his life right now. So that's like the big one that most people want to know about. But Going down the list, we have Marvin Jones. He is out this week. Do not play Marvin Jones. He's not in the lineup. That means Kenny Galladay is going to see tons of targets against Carolina. Carolina, I believe it's all but one game this year, have allowed multiple passing touchdowns. So I think Kenny Galladay is a fantastic start. He's going to see probably 10 plus targets in this game. Even if James Bradbury is covering him, I'm not really too worried about him. He's a great go up and get it type of receiver. Another player this benefits quite a bit that you can use as a spot start in like a PPR format would be Theo Riddick. Theo Riddick against the Bears last week caught 6 passes for 60 yards, and that was a tough matchup. The matchup they're going into this week, it's not a great one against Carolina, but at the same time, if you're getting 6 to 10 targets as a running back, you deserve consideration as a flex play. So I have Theo Riddick as a solid RB3. He should deliver a solid floor this week if you're in like a pinch at running back. So Marvin Jones out. Moving on next, we have Kiki Qt. He's considered to be a game time decision. We don't know anything about him right now. My expectation is that he will play. He did practice this week. He said he wasn't going to return until he was 100% because he didn't want to push that hamstring again. But this team is in dire need of wide receivers. I mean, they went out and traded for Demaryius Thomas for a reason. It's going to be Demaryius Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins on the perimeter and Kiki Qt in the slot. But I'm really curious to see how they use him now with no Will Fuller. They need a field stretcher, and Kiki Qt can do that. So me personally, I expect QT to play. I have him in wide receiver 4 territory. There's a little bit more upside than you think, but there also might be a little more downside if they try and ease him back into the offense, or if his hamstring were to act up a little bit. I'm always a little bit hesitant, like pulling the trigger fully on these guys that are dealing with a soft tissue injury that they've missed a couple weeks. So understand that about QT, the risk. Jameson Crowder and Chris Thompson are both out for the Redskins. This is not surprising. Jameson Crowder, I think this is the 5th straight week that he's missed. He didn't practice. Chris Thompson getting older, dealing with a rib injury now, coming off the leg injury that he was supposed to be healthy around this time of the year. So there's a lot of things going on. Alex Smith is without. Obviously, Paul Richardson's on IR. Jameson Crowder's out. Chris Thompson's out. 3 starting offensive linemen are out. It's going to be difficult for the Redskins to do anything against this Houston defense. So, yeah, those guys are out. I mean, if you really... I don't think that you want to play anybody from that team if you can help it. I think Jordan Reed might be the best one, but it's not great. All right, so the Raiders, I don't know if we even need to talk about this anymore, guys. If you guys are here watching this show, you're probably not playing Raiders receivers. Let's be real about it. Jordy Nelson hasn't been anything, and especially once Amari Cooper left, I knew Jordy Nelson's career was essentially done because that meant no more Jordy Nelson in the slot. They couldn't use him there. They needed Seth Roberts as a full-time player, and he's like an 80% slot usage guy. So Seth Roberts and Brandon LaFell, those are your 2 starting receivers for the Raiders. And if you're looking for like a deep play, I mean, I'm talking about like literally like a 14-team league where you start 5 wide receivers. I think Seth Roberts has a good matchup. Budda Baker's been terrible in the slot. He's actually out for this game. So knowing that they're going to go to the backup slot corner in a matchup they've already struggled with, he's not the worst play in deep formats, but I don't think you guys, if you're in a 12 or a 10-team league, you probably don't need to play Seth Roberts. So, but yeah, Jordy Nelson and Martavis Bryant are out for this game. And then the last bit of news is on Sammy Watkins. We really don't have much here. So Sammy Watkins, they said that they expected him to play this week. He came out and did a limited practice on Wednesday, and then he sat out, or on Thursday, and then he sat out on Friday's practice. So he didn't practice again on Saturday, but they're still expecting him to play. I'm a little concerned about Sammy Watkins myself. He's someone that he's had foot injuries in the past. He's still dealing with something. They're saying it's not the foot that was surgically repaired, which is, it's really worrisome. Now he's got 2 bad feet. So, I mean, Sammy Watkins, it's a high scoring game. Like, this game is projected to have, I think the over under dropped to 63, but it was at 64 in some spots. So this is like the highest line ever. You obviously want plays in that game, but Sammy Watkins comes with a lot of risk. I'm putting him in as a wide receiver 3 right now, and not necessarily one that I would have to play over someone like a Sterling Shepard, who has a fantastic matchup, and we know he's in good health. So keep that in mind. That's it for the injuries, guys. Like, the last few weeks, we've had so many injuries where it's been seemingly like we talk 15, 20 minutes about injuries, but yeah, we are done with those. So the way we do this is you guys give me your start-sit questions, and I grab them randomly. Like, I'm not picking favorites or anything. I'm not taking the first person that was here. I'm not taking the last person that walked in here. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm literally just grabbing random questions from here and there, answering them to the best of my ability. So put your questions in there. If I get to it, and like if it goes, a minute or 2 or a couple minutes where there is none, then go ahead, submit another one. Just because like it's automatically going to scroll with YouTube. So I'm just going to go through as many questions as I can. Let me take a sip of water before then. All right. So the first question, Raymond, Ricky Seals-Jones or Vance McDonald. I'm going to go Ricky Seals-Jones here. I know there's a lot of people looking to play Vance McDonald against Jacksonville after the game that Eric Ebron just had, but those two are very different tight ends. Jacksonville's been relatively good against tight ends the last 2 years. Again, I know that Ebron didn't make it look that way, but at the same time, like I know Zach Ertz had a decent day, but Zach Ertz is not really a tight end. We can't put him in that conversation. He's like legitimately an outlier every single week. He's on pace for, I think as of right now, the stat I had was that Zach Ertz is on pace for 178 targets this year. He's already hit 100 targets. Like by comparison, over the last 5 years, I think there's been one tight end to see more than like 132 targets. So it's like ridiculous the pace he's on. So I don't want to take that. And Eric Ebron, I mean, it is what it is. But Ricky Seals-Jones matchup is awesome against Oakland. Honestly, I couldn't ask for a better matchup. The Oakland Raiders to tight ends have allowed 11.9 yards per target to them. There's no other team in the NFL that's allowed more than 9.9 targets or yards per target, which is like a 2-yard difference. That's like ridiculous. They're allowing a touchdown every 7.8 targets in coverage. They're allowing an 81% completion ratio. Like everything across the board says the Raiders are terrible against tight ends. If Seals-Jones sees targets, he's probably going to produce. And the reason that I like him is because ever since Byron Leftwich took over, he's ran his 2 highest routes run. Like in those 2 games, he's run more routes than he has all season long. He saw a season high 9 targets last week against Kansas City. That was a good matchup too, yes, but we're talking about maybe the best matchup for a tight end in the NFL. And I'm worried a little bit about the fact that I don't know if the Cardinals need to throw the ball more than maybe 25 times this game. But if Seals-Jones gets maybe 4 to 5 targets, I'll take that against Oakland and I'll take the production. So Seals-Jones is my pick of the 2. Adrian Peterson and Deshaun Jackson in the flex. This really comes down to Zane Fidel. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but it comes down to what you're looking for in your roster, right? If this is like one you're looking, you don't want someone to lose you the week, I would go with Peterson. He's going to get 15 plus touches in this game. They're not going to be very efficient. Houston has been one of the best run defenses in the NFL. They're not even allowing much through the air. I think it's going to be hard for the Redskins to produce more than like 14 points in this game. So Peterson is like the higher floor, I guess, but Deshaun Jackson comes with a higher ceiling. Deshaun Jackson, Chris Godwin has missed some practice time this week, so we might see Deshaun Jackson jump him in terms of snaps. We also have Todd Monken calling the plays again, which we know him and Fitzpatrick, they worked well with Deshaun Jackson early in the season. So I'm going to go with Deshaun Jackson if you're looking for upside. I think he's got a higher ceiling than Peterson this week. Golden Tate or Godwin in a half PPR. This is Golden Tate for me. I love Golden Tate this week, and a lot of people are concerned, and rightfully so, I guess, by his snap count that he had last week. So he was very eased into this Philadelphia offense, but I don't think they can afford to do that any longer because this is a team that's fighting for their playoff lives right now. They can't afford to lose another game. They're going into New Orleans, one of the toughest matchups. Golden Tate over his career, I posted this in the primer this week. If you guys didn't see it, Golden Tate inside domes over his career has been fantastic. Like legitimately almost double the production he has than when he's outside. I think his footing works better indoors. I think it works better for his tackle breaking ways. He makes very sharp cuts after the catch, and playing on turf will help him do that. On top of that, he's got a matchup with PJ Williams, potentially the worst slot cornerback in the game right now. So I'm going Golden Tate here. I think he plays a full complement of snaps, and I think that he is going to finish as a wide receiver too. So that's where I'm at with him. All right, Chargers or Houston defense. I would go personally. I'd go Houston. I understand wanting to play the Chargers defense, especially if Bosa's going to play, because we're hearing that Joey Bosa might give it a go this week. I mean, I think they'd play it safe with him. I'm not sure though. I haven't heard. But Houston's the defense I would play. I just think that the floor is higher. I want to say that they've held 6 of 9 teams this year to 20 points or less. They have generated 3 sacks in 4 of the last 5 games. I can't remember the stats off the top of my head with the defense, but I know that they're a phenomenal play this week. I'm playing them in DFS for my cash game lineup. So I'll go Houston here. Even though the Chargers aren't a bad play, especially knowing that Denver, they're actually a team that's down 3 starting offensive linemen as well. So the Chargers are not a bad play either. Fournette or Carrion? I'd play Fournette. Carrion is involved in a big timeshare. Like it's a terrible timeshare that he's in. And LeGarrette Blount is going to receive some goal line work. Theo Riddick's going to receive a lot of the passing down work. It's not to say Kerryon's not a fine play, but I would go with Fournette here just because he's like the guy who's going to get 20 plus touches every single week. Like they're going to ride him. It's not a great matchup, obviously this week against Pittsburgh, but we saw Christian McCaffrey kind of break through against them last week. So I'll go Fournette here and take the higher touch count. Start Deion Lewis or T.Y. Hilton in my flex. If this is, I don't even know if it matters if it's standard or PPR. Oh, I feel like T.Y.'s got the upside here. I'm a little worried. So Tennessee, like all year long, like you've seen wide receivers do some work against them, right? And a lot of people loved Josh Gordon last week. I like Josh Gordon, but there was concern about it, right? And I think I talked about it in this show saying that, over the time we've seen, Malcolm Butler really struggle in coverage, and that, like, when are they going to start putting Adoree Jackson in shadow coverage on someone like Josh Gordon? And they did. They actually put Adoree Jackson on him. He held Josh Gordon to a very low, like, it wasn't a very productive game for Josh Gordon. He held him in check. I believe that Adoree Jackson's going to be shadowing T.Y. Hilton in this game, which does add a little more risk to him. Deion Lewis involved in a timeshare, losing some goal line work to Derrick Henry. So, I mean, I'm probably going to take the guaranteed touches and go with Deion Lewis, but I do think that T.Y. Hilton comes with the higher ceiling. Let's see. Marlon Mack, Dalvin Cook, or Alex Collins. For me this week, it's Alex Collins. So I cannot bench Alex Collins this week. He's like a must play for me. The reason is I'm going to kind of run through some things with you guys. So we have a Ravens team coming off their bye week. Okay. Like that's obviously time to rest up. We have John Harbaugh, who is coaching for his NFL life. Basically he's on the hot seat. This is a divisional game. It's at home in Baltimore. Like there's so much here, right? It's not a Hugh Jackson situation. These players actually love John Harbaugh. I think he's a great coach. And I think this is like a game. It's like win one for the Gipper, right? And I don't like the narrative thing. I know not a lot of people buy into that, but I do when it comes to stuff like this. I do believe that the team understands what's at stake. I do know that Lamar Jackson is going to be under center or Robert Griffin III, and that tells me that they're not going to throw the ball 30, 40 times this week. And why is that so significant? Well, because not only does a mobile quarterback like Lamar Jackson present a better opportunity for Alex Collins, because what happens when you have a quarterback like him? A defense has to account for that, right? So a defense basically has to have a linebacker or a safety come down and track the quarterback. They have to have like a quarterback spy that basically locks onto the quarterback no matter what's going on. Because if there's like, one of those RPOs where they can do a lot of different things, or like an option where he can hand it off and then take off outside, they have to account for that. So basically you're removing one man from the box for Alex Collins when he runs the ball, or whatever running back. And if they're not throwing the ball more than 30, 35 times, this is great because the Bengals opponents average 71.6 plays per game. 71.6 plays per game is a lot, okay? They were on the field for 74 plays last week, and this is, and like we're seeing, now they're down 3 starting linebackers. I think Preston Brown is out. Vontaze Burfict, I don't think, is playing. Nick Vigil's not playing. They've lost a defensive tackle this season. They've lost an edge rusher. Like, they've lost so much on defense that, like, you run the ball. Run the ball against Cincinnati and you will have success. There's so many things that play into this. There's so many reasons I love Alex Collins. And if you ask me a question with Alex Collins, I'm probably going to tell you have to start him. So, I mean, unless you have someone like you're looking at Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley and Melvin Gordon, yeah, I guess you're starting those guys. But if there's any like other guys like, Mack or Cook or guys like that, I'm playing Collins over them. Bengals or Jacksonville defense. I would never, ever, ever play the Bengals defense the way they look right now, so it's Jacksonville easy. Allen Robinson or Lamar Miller? This is tough. I don't like Lamar Miller very much. Washington has been a really, really good run defense, and I know that we saw Tevin Coleman have a really good day against them not long ago, but when you look at the breakdown in terms of like fantasy points per touch, yards per target, yards per carry, the touchdowns they've allowed, there's just not much to go off for Lamar Miller. He's splitting more time with Alfred Blue than people realize, so I'm not really into Lamar Miller. That being said, Allen Robinson's probably going to match up with Xavier Rhodes. Xavier Rhodes is a bigger cornerback, and he's done a really good job the last couple of years, but he doesn't seem to be the same player. He's dealing with a foot injury. He's trying to work through right now. Allen Robinson is one of the better route runners in the league, so I'm not going to run from Allen Robinson. I don't think that he's like a lock that you have to play him, but I'll take Allen Robinson over Lamar Miller just because I don't like Lamar Miller's matchup at all. Diggs or carry on and a half PPR. I'll go carry on. I'll take the guaranteed touches there. Jack Doyle or Trey Burton. This week, man, it's tough. I will go with Jack Doyle. I do like Trey Burton, though. I like him quite a bit, but I'll go with Jack Doyle this matchup. Pittsburgh, they've been getting better against tight ends. That young safety duo is, they took some time to kind of develop the relationship with the linebackers and not leave such a big gap in the middle of the field. And that maybe is what held Greg Olsen somewhat in check, but it was just like an off game for the Panthers offense, so I don't really want to take too much from that. Jack Doyle is on the field 3 times the amount that Ebron is. I have him ranked ahead of Ebron, so yeah, I'd go Doyle here. And then the next question is actually Jack Doyle or Evan Engram. That's really tough. I'm going to go with Jack Doyle here just because I trust his quarterback situation a little bit more. The reason that I like Evan Engram a lot this week, the matchup is like, honestly, it's really tough to say that the matchup gets better than playing against Tampa Bay. But at the same time, the Giants' issue this week is that there's not one avenue that we know they're going to attack and that we know they're going to crush, because there's so many avenues that they can beat this Tampa Bay defense. Like, right, so you have Saquon Barkley. They're missing players in the front 7. They haven't been good against the run as of late. Okay, the Giants are at home. It makes sense for them to run Barkley and not take many chances with Eli Manning. Then you have Odell Beckham matched up with Carlton Davis. Like, what? I don't know what's happening here. That's a great matchup. You have Sterling Shepard going into play in the slot against MJ Stewart, if he's even playing this week. There's so many things that the ways that they can exploit this defense. It's difficult to say that one's a guarantee. I think the one guarantee is obviously Saquon's going to do some work, but I'll go Jack Doyle, even though I do like Ingram's matchup. Amari or Mac in a PPR. I'm going to go with Amari Cooper here. And I know that's probably not a popular take, but Marlon Mack, I think we saw what happens when he comes into a matchup that's not so good, right? It's like last week we saw them play the Eagles and Marlon Mack kind of went into a shell and he turned back into the running back that, we kind of thought he was. He's not a guy who's going to gain, 4 or 5 yards per carry like every single time. He's going to be a very boom or bust running back, and he's going up against a really tough defense this week in Tennessee. He's not utilized in the passing game as much as people think. Marlon Mack, he's only playing like 55 to 60% of the snaps, so he's not really a full-time player. He's mixing time in, so I'm going to go with Amari Cooper here. I think that the game between the Cowboys and the Falcons has some really sneaky shootout potential. Joe Mixon or Kerryon Johnson. This one is really tough for me, and I've been trying to avoid Mixon in terms of like recommending him because I don't think he's a very good play today. I've talked about the Ravens, how they're going to utilize that, that ball control style offense. I don't have faith that they're going to be able to run the ball very much, and they haven't used him in the passing game. Like last week, we saw him out of the bye week, 2 targets. Like I could go on a rant right now and talk about why the Bengals are completely misusing Joe Mixon, but I'm not going to do it. I'll go Kerryon Johnson here. I'm just going to do it because I can't trust the Bengals play callers. And now that Hugh Jackson's there, do you trust them anymore? Dalvin Cook, Mark Ingram, or Tariq Cohen, half PPR. I have Ingram ranked the highest right now, and I think a lot of people are mad at me about that. Like they're like, "Oh, Ingram, guys, he played like I understand it's Philly, I really do. Philly has also not looked quite the same over the last 4 weeks. They're missing a lot of players in the secondary. They may have to drop linebackers back in coverage a little bit more often. Whatever the case is, Philadelphia has allowed, I think, 2 100-yard running backs over the last 4 weeks, Ezekiel Elliott and Saquon Barkley. I know it's a little bit different than Mark Ingram, but Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram at home playing in a game that's got an over-under of 56, 57 points. Mark Ingram does get goal line opportunities. I like him a lot. I think Tariq Cohen is probably the highest floor guy of the 3. And I'm saying that because I think he's going to be heavily utilized against Minnesota. I don't think that Jordan Howard's going to get anything done on the ground, and they're going to have to go through Cohen. They're going to have to move the ball via the short passing game. So I think Cohen offers the highest floor here. Dalvin Cook's matchup against the Bears is brutal. They just allowed their first rushing touchdown last week. So I don't really want to just rely on Dalvin Cook against a matchup with the Bears who are healthy. So Mark Ingram, if you're looking for I think that overall, I think he comes the best risk reward, but I think Tariq Cohen has the highest floor in a half PPR. Traded Leonard Fournette and Deshaun Jackson for Robert Woods and Josh Gordon. I already have James Conner, Aaron Jones, and Joe Mixon. You traded Fournette and Deshaun Jackson for Robert Woods and Josh Gordon. That's not a bad trade. I mean, considering what you had and what you needed to fix, I'm guessing you needed to fix your wide receiver position. That's not a bad trade. I don't like losing Fournette, but at the same time, that offensive line is banged up. That team is they're in a bad place right now. But Deshaun Jackson is very hit or miss. So Robert Woods and Josh Gordon should be solid. It's not like a clear-cut win for me, but it's not a bad trade either. Kiki Qt, Ito, or Sanu in a standard format. I will go with, man, that's tough. Oh, I usually have like an answer, but like that's one where I'm kind of stumped on, because if I knew QT was healthy, I'd probably go with him, but I don't. So I'm going to go with Mohamed Sanu. I'll go with Sanu. It seems like he's getting healthier. He was practicing this week. I'll go with Sanu. It's close, though. Full PPR need RB2 and flex. So you need a... Oh, I'm sorry. That totally disappeared. I'm sorry. That happens from time to time. Mixon or Coleman in a PPR. I would play Tevin Coleman over Joe Mixon this week. Tariq Cohen or Corey Davis, half PPR flex. That one's really close too. Corey Davis should have a 8-target floor in this game. Indianapolis doesn't have a shutdown cornerback, and when Corey Davis has played in a game where the opponents don't have that, he's played really well. And honestly, he obviously played very well against Stephon Gilmore last week, so it's difficult to say that he's not trustworthy. This one's really close. I like Cohen more than most. I'll admit that. Man, I'll go Corey Davis here, but it's really close. I would have no issue if you told me you wanted to play Cohen. Theo Riddick or Tariq Cohen or Shepard as flex in a PPR. All right, so Cohen would be the play I'd go with here. Shepard I like, but I've talked about the Giants and the fact that there's so many different ways that they could beat the Bucs that they don't necessarily have to go to one guy. I like Shepard's matchup. It's awesome. Theo Riddick, solid floor play, but Tariq Cohen is the guy I would go with. He comes with upside too. Larry Fitzgerald or Marlon Mack. I'll probably go with Mack here, just because like the guaranteed touches for the running back are definitely something I don't want to pass up. And Larry Fitzgerald, he's seen buku targets the last 3-4 weeks maybe, but this is a game where it's weird. It's rare for Arizona to have a game like this where they're not going to have to throw the ball a whole lot. So I just worry about the volume a little bit. I don't think that Larry Fitzgerald is a bad play, but I'm worried about the volume. So I'll just take Marlon Mack and not deal with the headache. At least I know Mack's going to see touches. PPR league, pick 2, Mixon, Coleman, and Collins. Collins is 1 for sure. And again, I said I'd play Tevin Coleman over Joe Mixon. I just don't like Mixon's matchup, guys, in Baltimore. Galladay or Corey Davis. This is a really good one. I'm going to go with Corey Davis just because I think the matchup is a little bit better, but I think both of them are awesome plays. Like, both come with super high floors this week. Kenny Galladay should see 8+ targets. Same with Corey Davis. Carolina has James Bradbury. They have Dante Jackson, who have been better than the Indianapolis cornerback duo. So that's why I'm saying I think Corey Davis just like can dominate his matchup, whereas Galladay, he's going to get volume, and I think he's a high floor play, but I would prefer Davis because I think he comes with higher upside. Good question, though. Dak or Big Ben? I have Dak ranked higher. Atlanta. So Atlanta against the pass. So Alex Smith in week 9 was the first quarterback who scored fewer than 20 fantasy points against them. He scored 16.4. Keep in mind, he did that without his top 2 wide receivers, without his top pass catching running back, without 3 of his starting offensive linemen. Everybody outside of Alex Smith, even if, well, let's include Alex Smith in this one. So ever since losing Ricardo Allen in their secondary and Keanu Neal in the secondary, so Keanu Neal was week 1, but ever since losing him and Deion Jones in week 1, the Falcons have allowed all but 2 starting quarterbacks to throw at least 300 yards. And the 2 that didn't throw for 300 yards were Baker Mayfield and Ben Roethlisberger, who they only threw the ball 20 and 29 times, but they threw for 3 touchdowns against them. So, the Falcons secondary is just not good. We know that Dak has a rushing floor, and he's been solid, honestly. So since week 4, Dak Prescott has averaged more fantasy points per game than Kirk Cousins than Tom Brady. So I go with Dak. Big Ben on the road against Jacksonville. There's just a lot of variables there. I don't really know how to feel about Ben this week. I have him ranked as like a high-end QB2. It would not shock me if Ben Roethlisberger threw for 200 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks. Wouldn't shock me at all. So I just don't feel great about that game one way or the other. Thoughts on Tyler Boyd? He should be better this week. Like last week, it was really... So the Bengals had limited plays last week. They didn't throw the ball a ton. The Saints have done a great job with slot receivers. Even going back to Adam Thielen, I know he had 100 yards and I think a touchdown against them, but they've really limited what he could have done against them. They were kind of bracketing him with a safety in their slot cornerback, and it worked. that's what they did with Tyler Boyd last week, but Boyd again suffered from low volume. Tavon Young is the worst cornerback on the Ravens roster, and he covers the slot. So I do happen to think that Tyler Boyd lives up to wide receiver 2 status this week, so I do like him. I think he's better with AJ Green on the field, though. Kerryon Johnson or Juju? That one's really tough. Man, I'd probably go Kerryon just because I'll take the guaranteed touches. But Juju, the matchup for Juju this week is actually really good. In terms of, you have Jalen Ramsey outside, he's going to be covering Antonio Brown. Like that's happening. AJ Boye doesn't go into the slot, and that's where Juju plays the majority of his snaps. So it's like Juju should be a solid play this week. He could be the best Steelers receiver, honestly. But I'd still take the guaranteed touches of Kerryon. Olsen or QT in the flex? I'd play Olsen this week. Carolina is another team that's in a really good spot where it's kind of like the Giants this week, where there's a lot of different avenues where they can go to beat the Lions defense. Through the air is probably the best way. Like, honestly, Detroit is terrible on an efficiency basis. They've only faced, I think it might be the league low in pass attempts. And that's what's led people to believe that they're not as terrible as they are, but they are not good. And like, they do get some pressure on the quarterback, but at the same time, Cam Newton can evade that pressure a lot of the time. So I just feel like the Panthers are in a get right spot in terms of their offense against that Detroit defense right now. Golden Tate or Cooper on DK. So it depends on what you're playing. If you're playing in a cash lineup, I would go Cooper just because he's a little bit safer. You know, you've had him going to a new team, not playing the full complement of snaps. Golden Tate just offers a little bit of risk, but I like him in tournaments. I think that, so Amari Cooper is going to be owned quite a bit in terms of like cash lineup. He's going to be owned in some tournaments. He's going to be highly owned than Golden Tate is. So I think Tate's the better tournament play, but I think Cooper is the one I would play in cash. Week 12 defense pickup stash. I put that out. I don't have it in front of me. I think Buffalo is my favorite one, though. They're on a bye week, so a lot of people drop them. But Buffalo is the one I believe I had as my top one. Mixon, Cohen, or Collins have PPR. It's Collins. Like I said, guys, if you guys have a question like that, I'm probably going to say Collins. All right, let's see. Adrian Peterson or Calvin Ridley, flex standard. I usually lean towards the running back here because I like the guaranteed touches, but I'm not in love with Adrian Peterson's matchup against Houston. Houston has just been so good against the run. Like, looking at it, no running back has topped 82 yards against them. A lot of the production that they've allowed to running backs has been through the air. Like, any running back who's finished inside the top 20 against them has finished with at least 30 yards receiving. Like, Adrian Peterson hasn't been involved in the passing game very much lately. So I'm worried about his matchup here. I just don't think it suits his skill set very well. So I'm going to go Calvin Ridley here. Just give me the upside. Like, there's something to be said about safety for players. Like, there really is. But at the same time, you also don't want to be stuck with like, oh, I took the safety of Adrian Peterson and he got me, 45 to 60 total yards. And here I am left with, Calvin Ridley who had 60 yards and a touchdown. Like, that's possible. So I'll go with Ridley. It's close though. Ito Smith. Okay, there's way too many players there. All right, guys. Yeah, like, I'm sorry, Joel. But so if you guys have a question, obviously narrow it down to 2 or 3 players because I want to get to as many as possible. Amari Cooper or Alshon Jeffery in a PPR. I'll go Amari Cooper. I don't think Alshon Jeffery is a bad play by any means. Like, he's going to be shadowed by Marshawn Lattimore, which he is a really good cornerback. But Carson Wentz has been willing to target Alshon in tight coverage before, so I do believe he gets those targets. I think it's a high-scoring game. Alshon is a decent play, but I'll go Amari just because I think he's safer in a better matchup. Hooper or Doyle? This one's Doyle for me. Courtland Sutton or Josh Reynolds? I'm going to go... Oh, man, this is tough. I'm going to go Courtland Sutton. And the reason I'm going to go Sutton is because there's a slight chance that he's not shadowed by Casey Hayward. So Casey Hayward is the top cornerback on the Chargers. He's been shadowing opposing wide receivers. The thing is Courtland Sutton is probably the one who's going to draw Hayward because Emmanuel Sanders plays in the slot about 52% of the time. And that would essentially mean that Casey Hayward's just kind of stuck there, covering whoever 48% of the time. Do I think they do that? Courtland Sutton plays in the perimeter about 80% of the time. So therefore he'd only be in that situation 20%. Like, I might be confusing you guys with numbers here, but Courtland Sutton's matchup's not great. It's really not. But Josh Reynolds, the funny thing that you guys need to know is that everybody looks at the Chiefs defense and thinks, oh my God, it's a matchup you need to exploit. It's not. They've actually allowed the fewest, like not close to, not like second, not third, no, the fewest points per target to wide receivers, fantasy points wise, better than Jacksonville. So it's not a good matchup to target with them. You know, Josh Reynolds is going to be an upside play in future weeks. It's tempting because that game has a high over under, you know, that 63, 64 point total. It's really tempting, but I'll go with Sutton knowing that there's a chance that he's not shadowed by Hayward. That's where I would go. All right. Demaryius Thomas, John Brown, or Deshaun Jackson. I'll probably go with Deshaun Jackson. I don't know. I think John Brown might actually benefit from playing. Like, I don't know if he'd benefit because Flacco throws a pretty deep ball, but Lamar Jackson can get the ball down the field. Robert Griffin III can throw the ball down the field. So I don't mind John Brown, but at the same time, I'll take Deshaun Jackson knowing that Chris Godwin might not be playing at 100% this week. Demaryius Thomas, he is what he is. He's just a very boring play. Golden Tate versus Ridley. I have Golden Tate higher. Ridley's matchup isn't like as bad as some people think because Dallas has been really good against wide receivers this year. But at the same time, looking at the offenses they've played one top 15 offense all year, and it was Carolina, a team that doesn't really throw the ball a whole lot. So this is like the first test for the Dallas secondary where they're going to get tested a lot. I don't think it's a bad matchup for Ridley, but Golden Tate's matchup, I just can't pass up. Pick 2 full PPR, Galladay, Cooper, Ridley. All right. So I have to eliminate 2 of those guys. Eliminating. So I would eliminate Ridley for sure. I would play. Man, that's tough. I guess I would play Corey Davis and Kenny Galladay. Skipped over. Sorry. Hilton or Sanders. I would play T.Y. Hilton. Emmanuel Sanders again. So the concern is that Casey Hayward shadows him, but he doesn't when he goes in the slot. Emmanuel Sanders can have some production against LA. I'm not totally concerned about that, but LA has been a team that's been improving a lot more, and we might see Joey Bosa back. So I'm not like excited about Emmanuel Sanders. Whereas T.Y. Hilton, he's playing with a quarterback who's throwing better maybe than anybody in the league right now. Like Andrew Luck has looked fantastic. T.Y. Hilton's matchup against Adoree Jackson, it's not great, but at the same time, it's not like terrible. So I would go with T.Y. Hilton here. O.J. Howard or Jack Doyle in a half PPR. Jack Doyle against Tennessee. I don't know what it was, but I had Jack Doyle for whatever reason. I had him mixed up with Jacksonville earlier. So if someone asked me a Jack Doyle question, I'm really sorry because I think I mixed that up. I'm like thinking about it in my mind now. Jack Doyle's playing Tennessee. Tennessee has been a brutal matchup for tight ends. Now, granted, they haven't played like the best talent. Like I'm going to pull up the names they've played. Outside of Zach Ertz, here is the list of tight ends that the Tennessee Titans have played. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Jordan Akins, Mark Andrews, Blake Jarwin, Antonio Gates, Jacob Hollister, Charles Clay, and Mike Gesicki. So obviously they have not been tested against tight ends. I'm just going to go with Jack Doyle here. The reason I say that is because O.J. Howard, we saw a floor last week. That could have been Dirk Cutter's play calling. We don't know. Todd Monken's getting that play calling back this week. So there's a lot of variables here that it could be different things, but Howard hasn't really been a high target guy either. He's doing his damage on limited targets, and you kind of have to rely on some of those big plays. So with Doyle, I don't think you have to. So I'm going to go Doyle here. John Brown or Alex Collins? Alex Collins. Mike Evans, Corey Davis, Dion Lewis, 1 wide receiver and 1 flex. All right, so the wide receiver, I don't think that you can afford to bench Mike Evans in this game. Really don't. And then as for Corey Davis or Dion Lewis, I'll go with Corey Davis. We know he doesn't lose goal line opportunities. So Dion Lewis was close, tempting over Davis, but I'd play Mike Evans and Corey Davis. Half PPR, Mike Evans or Corey Davis. Wow. The odds, I would play Mike Evans over Davis. I know Evans hasn't been great as of late, but at the same time, like playing against this Giants team that the secondary has been weak, he's probably going to see a lot of Janoris Jenkins. Jenkins hasn't been the same player ever since having his ankle surgery last year. So I think he's allowed the 2nd most touchdowns in the league in his coverage. So Mike Evans. Dion Lewis, Corey Davis, or Diggs. You need 2 of them. Okay, well, I think here I'll go with Dion Lewis and Corey Davis, just because Diggs we don't know if he's 100%, and that's like obviously concerning. against the Bears secondary has played better. Do I think Diggs can beat Prince Amukamara and Kyle Fuller? Yeah, he can. I know he can, as a matter of fact. But I don't know if you need to push it. I don't know if he'll have time to develop those routes down the field. Cousins has been under a lot of pressure this year. That offensive line isn't great. The game's in Chicago. The conditions are not great. Like, it's pretty cold here in Chicago. So I'll go with Deion Lewis and Corey Davis. Peterson, Tate, or Watkins. I would go with Tate of that one. All right, let's see. Alshon Jeffery or Jackson. I don't know if that's Deshaun Jackson. That's my guess. I'd play Alshon Jeffery. He's going to get targets regardless. It is a tough matchup, but I'll take the targets. Maurice Harris or Michael Crabtree in a PPR. Harris is tempting. I'm not going to lie. He's very tempting. Yeah, I'm going to go with Harris here, I think, in a PPR. Just because, like, I don't think the Ravens are going to throw the ball a whole lot with Lamar Jackson under center. I don't. And Michael Crabtree, the matchup against Cincy, he's probably going to see William Jackson, their toughest cornerback. I just don't think they need to force him the ball this week. Ryan Fitzpatrick or Lamar Jackson in a 4-point touchdown league. I have Ryan Fitzpatrick still ahead of him. It's close, though. Like, so you think about it this way. Quarterbacks are different than they used to be. So a lot of people throw out the stat, like Tim Tebow, was a top 12 quarterback when he'd play because of his rushing totals and that. It's a different game, right? So if Lamar Jackson, let's say that he rushes for 60 yards, 80 yards, we'll even say 80 yards and a touchdown, that's 14 points, right? In the NFL today, like, if you don't get to 20 points, you're probably not going to finish in QB1 territory, in the top 12 territory. So we're going to need, another 175 yards passing or whatever it is. It's like trying to figure out, like, this is high end, obviously. We put a rushing touchdown in there. So Lamar Jackson, I do like him, like, as a high floor option, but there's risks that he doesn't play the whole game. There's risks that they interchange him and Robert Griffin just to mix things up, create different looks against the Bengals. I don't know. But at the same time, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's on a leash, sure, but going back to Todd Monken, the guy who called plays when Ryan Fitzpatrick was throwing, like, phenomenally, that's probably where I'd go. AP or Theo Riddick in a half PPR. I'd probably go Theo Riddick, to be honest with you. That's me personally. Understand that there's a little bit more risk. Like, you're not going to get as many touches as AP does, but I think Theo Riddick comes with a higher floor than AP this week. Marlon Mack or Lindsey. Rob. I don't know what the Rob is, but I'm guessing it might say RB. I'm going to go with, I'll go with Lindsey here over Mac. It's really close between the two. They're both obviously in somewhat of a timeshare. Lindsey is the one who's seen, like, the, like, consistent touches week over week. Like, he's the one that they're using. So they did lose another offensive lineman, so it's going to hurt. The Chargers aren't the best matchup, but it's a divisional game. It should be close. Both of them are divisional games, actually, but I'll take Phillip Lindsay here. Vance, Jonnu, or Hurst in standard. I'll take Vance there. Jordan Reed or Austin Hooper. I actually like Jordan Reed more. When you look at the Houston team and what they do well, they get after the passer. Their secondary has been playing better, even though they've dealt with a lot of injuries in that secondary. But I believe that, you have Vernon Davis and Jeremy Sprinkle are going to be kept into pass block a lot of the times, whereas Jordan Reed's going to be running routes. They've talked about how they're managing his injuries. He said he's getting better week over week, and that, Alex Smith and him feel like they're getting on a similar page. And we're starting to see a little bit better numbers out of those two, but the targets should be there. Austin Hooper, he's been up and down. Like, the Falcons have really exploited their defense, the opponent's weakness, and I don't think Dallas is that weak against tight ends that it's a matchup they feel they need to exploit. I mean, Zach Ertz, again, to compare what a team has allowed to tight ends when Zach Ertz goes for 14 catches, 145 yards, and 2 touchdowns, it's unfair. And that's why Dallas looks like they're a bad team against tight ends suddenly. Before then, they hadn't allowed a tight end more than 67 yards, and they'd only allowed, 2 tight ends to finish top 10 against them. So it wasn't like it was a great matchup when Ertz went in there. Ertz is just really friggin' good. So I don't think that the Falcons necessarily need to exploit that area of the field. Tyler Boyd or Alshon Jeffery in standard. I'll probably go Boyd there just because I think he's a little safer. Like, I have no issue if you want to trust Alshon Jeffery this week, with the matchup against Marshawn Lattimore. But at the same time, you don't need to when you have Tyler Boyd there. Boyd should be, a 6 to 8 target guy, maybe even more. He did well against the Bengals last time, or the Ravens last time. I do think it hurts that AJ Green is not there, but at the same time, we're chasing those targets, and they're both going to get targets. Boyd's matchup is just better in the slot against Tavon Young there. Willie Snead or Sammy Watkins in a standard. This really comes down to what you're looking for. I'm going to go Watkins here. I'm changing this. Like, I was about to say this because I was thinking Snead, the high floor option, but knowing Lamar Jackson's there, I don't know if Willie Snead's going to offer that high floor that we've seen with Joe Flacco. So I'm going to go with Sammy Watkins and take the risk and take the upside. Kenny Galladay or Larry Fitz, full PPR, Galladay. Galladay for sure. All right. So let me see. Awesome. All right. While you guys are in here, I know there's a lot of people that were in here at the beginning. If you guys could do me a huge favor and click the like button down below, I'd really appreciate it. Obviously tells my bosses that I'm doing a good job, that you guys actually appreciate it, and that, you know, you guys actually like it. That's why the like button's there. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, that's one of the requirements that we're doing for a helmet giveaway. We are giving away a Dalvin Cook signed helmet. Signed helmet. It's like a real full-size helmet signed in this white marker. It's a matte black helmet. It's an awesome helmet. I have one literally right on my shelf where it's signed by Adrian Peterson. So the signed Dalvin Cook helmet, go to fantasypros.com/contest, and there is where you'll be entered to win that helmet. So I hopefully see one of you guys come back and tell me that you guys won the helmet. That's what I want. So basically, I'm going to get to, we have another 15 minutes roughly to answer as many questions as possible, but I just wanted to remind you guys about that stuff. So thank you again for being here. Seriously, I know you guys say thank you in the chat, and I do read all those things at the end, and I thank you guys so much. I thank you just as much as you guys have thanked me. So seriously, Jordan Reed or Austin Hooper, that one I got to already. Let's see. Doyle or Seals-Jones in a PPR. So it's Jack Doyle for me. I mean, I like Ricky Seals-Jones an awful lot this week, but I can't play him over Doyle. I just don't know. The concern, again, with Seals-Jones is that the matchup is so good, but there's real risk that he sees 4 or 5 targets. Now, can that deliver a solid floor? Yeah, but I think Jack Doyle, playing with the way Andrew Luck has, you know, some of that variance that's gone to Eric Ebron, it's going to go to Doyle, so I'll take Doyle there. John Brown or Larry Fitzgerald in a standard. This one's really close. I would probably go with Larry Fitzgerald. It's really close, but I'm going to take the guy with the higher floor here. And knowing that there's some risk with both players, obviously volume concerns with both players. Larry Fitzgerald with a better matchup, I would say. So that's where I'm going to go. Kenny Galladay or Ingram, PPR flex. I'm going to go Galladay here in a PPR. So Kenny Galladay, if you guys missed the beginning, Marvin Jones is out this week, which means that Kenny Galladay is like literally the only wide receiver that Matthew Stafford is going to throw to. If you go back to like the Calvin Johnson days when he would see, you know, 12 plus targets, this could be one of those Galladay games. It's not to say that it's like the best matchup in the world against Carolina, but Carolina, as I mentioned earlier, they have allowed multiple passing touchdowns in all but 2 games this year. One was to Joe Flacco, which in week 8, he wasn't playing very well. And the other was to Dak Prescott, who was playing, you know, with a dinged up offensive line with no wide receivers. So they've allowed multiple touchdowns in, you know, it's 7 of 9 games. So if we're looking at Matthew Stafford and if he's going to throw multiple touchdowns, I would like to think Kenny Galladay is probably going to be on the end of one of those. So I have Galladay. Need to in PPR. Funchess, Anthony Miller, and Kiki Qt. I would go with Funchess and Anthony Miller. QT is like interesting, but he's coming off that multi-week injury, a soft tissue injury, one that could, you know, force him to leave early. It's also a game where he's a game time decision where they haven't really made up their mind. I think he's going to play, but I would rest QT if I can help it. Standard, Alex Collins or Dalvin Cook. I would play Alex Collins. Guys, Alex Collins is a top 12 running back play for me this week. I might be higher than anybody else in the industry on him, but I have I've talked myself through this one, and there's just nothing to dislike about him. Even if you're like, well, Mike, they run a timeshare. Yeah, they do, and I'm not even going to run from that. But what I do know is that even if they have a timeshare and that they combine for 30 to 35 carries this week, it won't matter. So I'm playing Alex Collins there. Let's see. All right, I'm seeing a lot of duplicates, guys, so I'm trying to skip over. I'm sorry about that. Rams or Titans defense rest of season. So I haven't looked at the rest of the season. I know there's guys on our website that have done that, and honestly, if you guys go to the website and look at fantasypros.com, and there's under the NFL dropdown, you could see under research the strength of schedules tab, and you can go in there and see who they're about, like who defenses are going to play for the rest of the season. It's got them lit up like in green or red, so it basically tells you the matchup. So that's what I would use. So that's what I suggest you guys go and use right now. honestly, with so little time in the week where it's like, I really, and especially this week where it's like, I only have like 3 days to put in research as much as possible and get to Thursday where we have 3 Thanksgiving games. And then, we get on to week 12. It's difficult sometimes to kind of go through all this stuff and look at the rest of the season. So I'm always focused on the current week. I know on the site we do have things that some of our featured writers are doing that are putting up, so keep an eye on the website, but if not, check out the strength of schedule on the site. Calvin Ridley or Phillip Lindsay in the flex. I'll go with Phillip Lindsay. I'll take the guaranteed touches between the two. Calvin Ridley, he's not guaranteed anything more than like 6 targets, maybe 5-6 targets. He can do some work. I do think he offers some potential in this game. His matchup isn't bad, actually, against Chidobe Awuzie, whatever you want, however you want to pronounce it. It's not a bad matchup at all. So I think Ridley can win that, but Lindsay's the one guaranteed work. So I'll take him. Ryan Fitzpatrick or Deshaun Watson. I would play Watson this week. Washington has allowed a lot to quarterbacks as of late. I mean, if you look at going back to like week 7, Dak Prescott, 273 and a touchdown. He also ran for a touchdown. Eli Manning, 316 and a touchdown. Matt Ryan, 350 and 4 touchdowns. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick, 406 yards. He didn't throw a touchdown, but 406 yards. I just believe that this is a matchup where Deshaun Watson can use his legs. He's fresh. His chest injury is probably doing a lot better than it was a couple weeks ago with that bye week. They added, they're getting QT back. They added Demaryius Thomas. There's a lot of reasons to like this matchup for Deshaun Watson. Pick 2, Joe Mixon, T.Y. Hilton, or Kenny Galladay. 10-team, half PPR with bonus points for big plays. Yeah, so being there's bonus points and all that, we'll go with T.Y. Hilton and Kenny Galladay. I was going to grab another one, but it skipped over. I'm sorry. Let's see. PPR flex, Ingram or Mac? Let's see. I'm going to go with Ingram on this one. I just like the touchdown potential for Ingram in the matchup against Philly. I know it's a tougher matchup, but knowing that they're missing so much in their secondary, they're down to 1 starting cornerback, and it's their slot cornerback, Sidney Jones. Knowing they're down that, it's like, I wonder if linebackers are going to have to drop back. I don't know if they're going to just bring a ton of pressure to Drew Brees and try and get to him before he can get the ball out. And if that's the case, then they're going to adjust, and they're going to throw screens to Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. So I'm going to go with Ingram here. Golden Tate or Sammy Watkins in standard, I would play Golden Tate. Obviously, both of them come with a little bit of risk, but Tate's matchup is, this matchup right here is essentially why the Eagles needed to go out and get someone like Golden Tate, because they need to take advantage of this matchup. And if they only have him for half a season, why wouldn't they use him? I just feel like this is a matchup where they really need to. Burton or Doyle in a PPR. I'm going to go with Doyle. It's close, though. It's really close. I like Burton this week. Let's see. Allen Robinson or Ridley in a standard. I will go with Allen Robinson. It's close, though. Amari Cooper or Golden Tate? Amari. Josh Reynolds or Anthony Miller in a standard. I would play Anthony Miller. Josh Reynolds is going to be like a full-time player in that offense because they run more 3 wide receiver sets than most. But I believe this is a week where Todd Gurley legit crushes. I just feel like the matchup suits him well. You have the best running back in the NFL going against the worst defense against the run in the NFL. Legit, they've allowed the most fantasy points to running backs this year. Todd Gurley has scored the most. It's their meeting, and it's just this is going to happen. I just don't think that Jared Goff needs to throw the ball a ton in this matchup. Josh Reynolds he's going to match up with Orlando Scandrick the majority of the time. Scandrick's been really good. Oddly enough, I didn't think I'd ever say that, but now that he went from Dallas to Washington to wherever else he went and then now to KC, he found his home, and he's playing on the perimeter instead of the slot, and he's done a phenomenal job. All right, let's see. Theo Riddick or Mixon in a half PPR. I'd still go Mixon there. I don't like Mixon's matchup, and I have him as a middling to low end RB2, but I'd still play him over Riddick because as much as I think Riddick presents a somewhat high floor, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that he's going to get 10 plus carries and 8 targets. That's not going to happen. We'll take Mixon. Dalvin Cook or Alex Collins. Yep. And if you guys are just joining the stream now, if you're just here, Alex Collins, if you have him, you're starting him. Deion Lewis or Tariq Cohen in a full PPR. That's tough. I'm going to go with Cohen here. I think it's close. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should say Deion Lewis. Man, that's so close. I'm going to look at my rankings just because I don't even know how to answer that one. So I do have Deion Lewis slightly higher. So let's go with Deion Lewis. We'll go with him. Cousins, Mariota, or Lamar Jackson. I would go, oh, man, I want to say Marcus Mariota. Mariota. I think it's Mariota. I think I've been saying it wrong. Yeah, I'm going to go with Marcus Mariota. And the reason I'm doing that is because the Colts have not been able to get after the passer the last few weeks. Like their pass rush is non-existent. And if Mariota gets time to deliver the ball, that's when he can become dangerous. And if you give him too much time, he's going to run with the ball. So I will go with him. Cousins matchup against the Bears, not a great one. Lamar Jackson, not bad. Like I debated saying Lamar Jackson here, but Mariota is the safer one, I think, with how he's played recently. Traquan or Eckler, half PPR. Save me, Mike. So this might surprise you, but I'm gonna go with Traquan. The reason I'm gonna go with Traquan is because he's matched up with a backup cornerback. Not to say that he hasn't busted, because he did last week. He didn't see any targets, he didn't have any catches, but the reason to have hope with Traquan in a matchup like this is the total obviously is a high one. I think it's the second highest over-under of the week. You have Michael Thomas, who's going to demand a lot of attention. And Michael Thomas is still going to go off. But the reason Traquan was on the field more than Michael Thomas last week. So it's not necessarily, it was just the play calling, the play design. They didn't feel the need to go to Traquan last week. So this week it could be totally different, and like he could have a blow-up game. Whereas Austin Eckler, ever since Melvin Gordon came back from his hamstring injury, Austin Eckler is kind of like an afterthought in the offense. Like legit, he's just actually a handcuff. Like he hasn't delivered any value. So I'm going to go with Traquan here. Take the upside. Stash Lamar or Fitz for the rest of the season. I'm guessing this is a quarterback question, so I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson for sure. I think once Dirk Cutter is fired, if he's not fired, I think if they lose this game, he's probably fired after this week. I do believe that they're going to go forward with Jameis Winston once that happens. I think he's coaching for his job, and I think he believes that Ryan Fitzpatrick gives him the best chance to win, and he's not so much thinking about the future of the franchise where, Jameis Winston could be the future of the franchise. So Leonard Fournette or Jordan Howard? Leonard Fournette for sure. OJ Howard is Josh Reynolds. That's cool. Flex PPR, Ridley or Courtland Sutton or John Brown. I will go Ridley here. I'm a little concerned about Courtland Sutton's matchup. I've talked about that and the fact that he might be shadowed by Casey Hayward, and that would be terrible for him. John Brown, limited pass attempts in Baltimore with Joe Flacco out. He's capable of big play for sure. He absolutely is, but a lot of players you could say that about, and I just think that Ridley's going to see more volume. Theo Riddick, Mohamed Sanu, Crabtree, Moncrief. Pick one. Of those options, I would go with Theo Riddick. Tevin Coleman or Joe Mixon, I would play Tevin Coleman. Fitz or Luck, I would play Luck. I think it's difficult to bench Luck right now, even though Tennessee is one of the 2 or 3 teams in the league who has yet to allow a quarterback reach 23 fantasy points. So I think Luck's ceiling is a little bit capped here in this matchup. It's a divisional game, obviously. But looking over at Fitz, it's like this guy could be benched at any moment. You know that you don't have to worry about that with Andrew Luck. And honestly, New York is another team. New York hasn't been as bad as people think. There have been 2 quarterbacks who've reached 20 fantasy points against them. Like there's only one game this year where they allowed 3 passing touchdowns. So it's not like a great matchup against New York. It's not bad, but yeah, that's what I would do. Let's see. Need to start 2. Amari. Oh crap! It went away. I'm sorry. I have Keenan Allen, Diggs, Boyd, and Cooper. Pick 2 standard. So Stephon Diggs dealing with an injury is almost like eliminate some risk if we can. So let's say Stephon Diggs is probably going to be on your bench, which it kind of stinks to do that. And then Keenan Allen, I'd probably put on my bench too. I know that that's like a hot take, and I'm usually the one high on Keenan Allen. Like I think his matchups are usually good, but he's going to match up with Chris Harris Jr. this week, and that's not a good matchup for anybody. Like legit, Chris Harris is the best slot cornerback in the game, bar none. Like legit, the best. And that's who Keenan Allen's going to see most of the day. So it's a problem. So I'm going to go with Tyler Boyd and Amari Cooper here. Let's see, Amari Cooper or T.Y. Hilton. That's really close. I probably go Cooper, but T.Y. probably offers a little bit more upside. It just depends on what you're looking for in your matchup. I do actually, looking at it, I have T.Y. ranked higher, even though I'm not like completely sold on it. It's only like 2 spots higher. Allen Robinson or Larry Fitzgerald. Have them right next to each other. Like Robinson's 22, Fitz 23. So I go with your gut on that one. Both. So Allen Robinson might see more targets, actually. Like, that's the thing with Robinson. I think he might see more targets in that matchup, but it's against Xavier Rhodes, so they're not going to be, like, as quality of targets. Whereas, like, you go to Fitz, the matchup is good, but you're talking about a game where he might not see as many targets. I don't know, man. Maybe Fitz, I guess, because it's possible, I guess, that Arizona just doesn't run away with the game. Like, not run away with the game, but control the game as much as I think they can. With MVS putting up a stinker, who has more upside this week in standard, A-Rob or Smokey? I go with John Brown, I think, for upside. If you're looking for pure upside, because he offers like a one-play potential. A-Rob's not that guy. Dante Moncrief or Anthony Miller? I'm going to go with Anthony Miller on that one. Moncrief should match up a lot with Joe Hayden, and Hayden's been really good in coverage as of late. All right, I'm going to take one more, guys. Let me see. Eli Manning or Marcus Mariota? That's a great question. I'm going to go with Eli Manning here. I think Eli Manning's matchup could not be better, provided the weather in Jersey is solid, because I haven't looked at the weather yet. Usually that's like one of the last things I look at, because I don't want to buy into all the false narratives. But as long as the weather is good, I believe this could be one of Eli's last starts at MetLife Stadium, and the matchup against Tampa Bay is just, it's pristine. Like, there's nothing that you run from in this matchup that you're worried about. So even though Saquon Barkley can do some work, I think Eli Manning's a relatively safe play this week, and I like him. But again, guys, thank you so much. I want to remind you guys, click the subscribe button below. Click the like button, do all that fun stuff, and that little notification tab. You guys can see that. That'll notify you when we go live. And we're actually doing a special sit-start live stream, I want to say, on Wednesday. I think Bobby's doing that. So make sure to tune in for that. Like, I think we're going to have another stream on Monday or Tuesday. I don't know. I can't keep track of all this stuff anymore. Like, I'm like literally lost in the shuffle. But what I do know is that we are going to be here for you throughout the remainder of the season. We definitely want you guys to, we want to help you guys win your fantasy league. That's ultimately why we're here. And hopefully you guys learned something today. That's always the goal of the show. So thank you, as always, for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. And until next time, lights out.